This time on Pole Barn Garage, I got to get to New Mexico for a revival. I figured it'd be cheaper to drive and sell a vehicle there than to buy a plane ticket and rent a car. We'll see if it works out that way. So I'm into this truck pretty cheap. Did some wheeling and dealing with Sean. He's a fan of the channel. I would say I'm into it for maybe $1,200 total. If you were to buy 2 plane tickets and then rent a car for several days as you revive a vehicle, plus having to buy tools on site, I think it's cheaper to just drive something there, sell it on site after you get the other vehicle going, and then drive the other car home. Plus, you get to see America and not just fly over everything. This has to be the world's most generic square body truck ever. It's a 2-wheel drive, small block, 3/4 ton. It's not in particularly good shape, but I know it runs. It doesn't run very good, and I do know it's gonna need some work before we can even think about trying to drive this thing. It's covered in stupidity. It's just kind of a regular old pickup truck. One of the first things I noticed was the 2 jugs of oil in the back. But look at the empty valve covers that Sean threw in. I mean, come on. In here we have, well, pretty generic square body stuff. Although there is a headliner of sorts. It's really nothing to it. It's just kind of an old turd truck, and that's okay. An old turd truck usually gets the job done. Under the hood, we've got a 350 of some kind. It has 1 GM Goodwrench valve cover on it, and then 1 chrome one. So I'm not sure if it's a replacement or what, but it does have a high-rise intake and an Edelbrock. It seems to leak oil profusely, and I know it runs on at least 5 cylinders. This thing's gonna need a lot of working on before it's ready to make a 1,200-mile drive, so we better get it in there and get started. Well, as you can probably tell, it runs really bad. That may be the first place we need to start. Let's make it run better. But there's also one other kind of big problem that I know about it. See that? That's bad. That control arm bushing has been out of it for so long that it's destroyed the control arm. That's not going to make it 1,200 miles. Having a little bit of a tough time getting my hands on one right away. That's going to have to wait a day or two. You know, there was a time where I had like 10 of these 2-wheel drive, 3/4 ton trucks. They used to be worthless, and man, I parted out so many over the years. I feel a little guilty about it now. At one time, I probably had 50 of those control arms. I got some parts on the way to fix the suspension issues. That's probably the biggest problem we're going to have. Assuming this small block is good and, you know, it has a hell of an exhaust leak, it needs a tune-up, we need to really look at it. In order to access that a little easier, I'm going to pull this brush guard off so I can get in there, and also because I want to keep this brush guard, right? So the whole premise is we sell the truck. I don't want to let this go with it. I sold one just like this a while back, and I kicked myself for it because they're kind of hard to find. It's not particularly well attached either. Man, I just made about $8 in washers too. And because I don't plan on putting any boats in the water, and I know I'm going to bust my shins on this receiver hitch on the front of the truck, I'm going to go ahead and remove it too. There we go. My shins are thanking me already. First thing I'd like to address here is the exhaust leak, if we can. And I can definitely tell it's coming from this side. Oh, hey, it's missing bolts. I bet they're broke off in there. What do you want to bet? I'm going to try to put a bolt in. And, yeah, they're broke off in the head. Ah, son of a bitch. Earplugs are cheap. I think that's how we'll deal with that. Well, just because we'll probably suffocate on carbon monoxide fumes doesn't mean we need to suffocate on burning oil fumes. Let's pop these valve covers off and see if we can't find the source of that tremendous oil leak. I'm pretty sure it's just the valve cover, but you never know. What is this? Just stick two together. Use it as a spacer. Oh, what the hell? Okay. What secrets lie inside here, and do I want to know? Hey, that does not look bad at all. Check our PCV valve. It is, oof, plugged up. It's got a lot of moisture in it. We should check the oil. I haven't looked at anything. That is a lot of condensation on everything. Hopefully just condensation. There we go. I'm gonna have to pull this AC compressor. This valve cover's a little bit taller than stock. It does not want to come out of there. Alright, well, we can pull an AC compressor and not put it back on. That sounds like a deal to me. What's the oil look like? It's fine. That's just some condensation. I don't think it's milkshake. And deleted. This valve cover gasket is all kinds of jacked up. I'm really hoping that was what the problem was. That's an easy fix. The engine itself looks really, really clean inside. Pretty minimal debris. Although, like, oh no, that's just RTV smeared all over that. See, they must have been trying to wiggle that thing around the AC compressor, and that's probably why it didn't seal. That's definitely where it's been leaking. Look where all that's built up in between the manifold there. That's all oil. I mean, I'm not seeing anything crazy out of the ordinary here. Could be a reman engine. I don't know. I was looking around to see if I had a matched pair of valve covers other than these MTs. These are really cool, and I kind of hate to let them go, you know. And I have these stock ones here, which I guess we could put on. I mean, I don't know. The MTs would look pretty cool on there. Maybe we should invest in. Maybe that'll be a selling point of the vehicle. Trying to test fit these to make sure they'll fit, and I can't even get this one on because of that oil buildup down here. Gotta scrape it out. I can't say I've never really seen anything like that before. There we go. Fits fine. Definitely won't fit with the AC compressor, but that's not our problem anymore, thankfully. I think I'm gonna clean those up and make them look a little nicer before we just send it. I know, there's probably bigger problems. There's bigger fish to fry here, but they bother me. Let me soak these down super clean, get them cleaned up again. We'll repaint them before we put them on, because we have to. As clean as I'm going to make them. Now, these are supposed to be painted with wrinkle finish paint, but I don't have any, and it's kind of expensive. So, regular old Rust-Oleum it is, and then we'll sand off the fins and the letters, and they'll look pretty good. You gotta remember, we're going to try to sell this thing, so anything we can do to make it look like a little bit better and maybe get an extra $50-100 out of it, that's worth it. I got tune-up stuff coming, but the parts store didn't have anything for a small block Chevy. Strange world we live in. I'm going to jack this thing up. The tires are shot. I'm going to run these over to my brother's. He's got 2 more tires for me over there and a tire machine. We'll run over to Cody's, get some new rubber mounted up for the thing at least. It's probably a good thing to take a look in here anyway. Just get an idea of what we're going to need. Looks like newer rotors. Definitely newer rotors. They're brand new. Calipers maybe new-ish. The hoses have been replaced at some point. Cool. It even looks like it's got newer shocks on it. This is kind of interesting. It's got a semi-floating 14 bolt. That's why there's no flange here. On a 14 bolt, you have a flange here, you unbolt, and they pull the axle out, because the axle doesn't carry any load in a full floating rear end. This one, it does carry a load, so it's kind of interesting. Still a very heavy-duty rear end, though. Now, the spare of the truck was in real poor condition. So I'll just keep this one here off of the truck, keep it as a spare. It's probably the best of the 4. So then we'll just mount a new tire on the spare. By new, I mean I bought 2 tires for that Suburban that we had a little while back, and then I sold the truck, never put them on. The other 2 are on the dually, the white dually we drove home from Wyoming. I sold that to Cody. Part of the deal was I wanted to keep my tires from it. They're going to be 2 different sizes, but it's a 2-wheel drive truck. It don't matter, and we'll have new rubber.
What?
Your payment.
Oh, my payment. There you are. 2 bottles of Super Fleet.
No, I have more.
I can bathe now.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And for the use of your Zing Kong tire machine.
Hey, I am brand loyal. It's the same brand as my lift.
Oh yes, the Zing Kong. We all know that one.
We all know the Zing Kong.
They're great.
Come on.
Come on, Zing Kong.
Pop! Come on.
Well, you just can't get anything nice these days.
Nothing off of Amazon.
Hey, is this one of them mobile tire machines? That's why it's on the pallet.
It is on the pallet.
Put some casters on it.
Just roll it around.
Yeah. These tires are 265/75s, and these tires are the other ones I need. 235/85. No, just throw it at it like them guys in Africa do.
Oh, hey, I'm surprised I was able to do that.
There you go.
I'm like fat, man. I'm already out of breath. So you know what you're doing there?
No. Not really. I'm Zing Kong and that's heavy.
I mean, weren't you the tire expert at GM?
I did do it for a long time.
The other side.
Why are the stickers in the wrong spot?
Don't follow the stickers.
Well, we got 4 new tires. That's gonna help a lot. Now I just hope the thing runs good enough to drive 1,200 miles, but that's one thing checked off. Looks like my parts ought to be in now, so let's go get those. We're back home with our new tires. I picked up a lot of parts. Not going to use all of it, but this is what I call cheap insurance, or free insurance actually. Anything, you know, like fuel pump or alternator or anything like that, I'll just throw it in the bed of the truck. If we need it during the trip, we'll have it. And if we don't need it, I'll take it back and get my money back. Shady? Maybe. But peace of mind, yes. But before we can do anything that matters, we have to make these look good. You can't have painted Mickey Thompson valve covers, okay? You gotta knock off the fins. I'll take my DA and just stay flat on them and sand it. And these are now the coolest thing in the whole truck. Truck's worth it, right truck? We're gonna have no problems, right truck? There's one, and I went ahead and replaced the PCV valve because the old one felt kind of crummy, so get the other one tossed on, and then we'll start pulling some spark plugs. Yeah, starting to pull plugs. They look pretty bad. I mean, look at the gap on that thing, man. That's just one. That's 45 thousandths. That's what they're supposed to be. I've been waiting for the gasket to dry on that valve cover so I can install it. And I was just kind of looking around, and lots of these intake bolts are very loose. That's not great. That's not great at all. That one's not even in. Boy. So I'm still fighting this damn valve cover, and I've ran into this before. It's a cheapy like Jags brand or a Chinese intake, and the runners are too tall, and they actually hold the valve cover up. You can see the gasket sealer on that one where it's been touching. We will have to clearance that. I didn't want to fill the engine with metal shavings, so I did the unthinkable and then ground the valve covers to fit the intake. I feel sick about it, but it will work. Alright, that's done. Plugs are in. They were all real bad, but I wouldn't say they're like oil fouled or anything. I didn't see anything that's like, whoa. Some oil on the threads have been pretty heavy, but both of these valve covers were leaking profusely. It really could have just been that. But the one thing I did notice was that the gaps were just all over the place. So that can make a real difference. Rotor, roached. Cap, worse. Coil buttons melted, tracked really bad. Not to mention the corrosion on the terminals. This is pretty bad. We'll see what the coil looks like in this thing. Looked at the centrifugal advance here. It's not stuck, but it is floppy and terrible. I'd bet you $1 that's a Chinese distributor, but it is what it is. That is an original coil. Well, from something. 1983. Elko right on the side. Oh no, is it burned through? It is. Oh, we gotta check this out. Look at that. It's been shorting. Oh my god. Look at all that oxide in there. I mean, it's still working, but not for long. Look how burned that iron is. The windings are shorting to the outside part here. I've had this broken cap laying around for some reason. Surely it must be because the coil's really good. I'm going to go ahead and throw this mystery Chinese coil in it. And then I have another mystery Chinese one as backup. So that's bound to get us 100, 200 miles maybe. Oh, I was putting the cap on and I noticed that she's already set up for easy timing adjustments. So, hey, that's handy. That's really nice. Generic parts store wires never fit worth a shit. So we'll try to clean these up a little bit. Drop the oil and continue our tune-up process. I did notice that not only is the distributor loose, but number one is not in the typical spot. Like this is usually number one. And I'm wondering if that's why that distributor was turned so weird. Because if I put number one here, then it would be right. I don't know. I'm gonna wait to mess with that until I throw a timing light on it and just see how far out of whack we are. But I mean, I guess it doesn't make 2 bits of difference either way. You just, I guess I'm not keeping it, so I shouldn't even care. But I do a little. Obviously, going to replace this fuel filter, but it's always good to take a look, see if you notice anything. And there is a little debris in there, but it's not super bad, so nothing I'm going to really sweat too much. We'll put some new hoses and a new filter on it. I also found a vacuum leak. They had a hose going into this little bubble up here, and nothing coming out of it, so it was just a wide open vacuum leak. What that little bubble is the reservoir for your vent controls for your HVAC system. And I found just a nub of vacuum line sticking out of this firewall. I was able to get a vacuum line on it. So what we'll do is hook this to this side of the bubble over here, and then as long as we supply manifold vacuum to this side of the bubble right here, as long as everything in the truck works, we will have vent control, you know, heat, blend door, all that crap. Let's drop the oil on this thing. I noticed one thing. It's got a newer pan on it. This may be a reman engine. It's got one of them gigantor oil filters on it. Like the industrial one. Not that I would ever do such a thing, but if you were to attach that to a modern sporting rifle, it would probably be a very effective suppressor. Look at that thing. The oil's very watery. Man, everything is so caked in oil. It's unbelievable. Let me throw a new filter on it, and then we'll dump some fresh in it. I got a couple quarts of leftover VR1 here. I'm going to mix in 1 quart of Lucas that I had laying around. And we're going to mix that into the jug just so it goes down a little easier. Then we'll top off with regular cheap oil just because I'm not trying to do a $50 oil change on this thing. Somebody had sent me this BFL engine oil booster, a whole case of it. It's basically just ZDDP additive. And I figured this motor is probably kind of tired. So, you know, just a little extra pep in its step. A little extra gravy in its biscuits this morning. You know, that's going to help it. That's going to help. You know it's good when it's got a pull tab. It's quite the concoction we're making here. Oh yeah, that's just straight up syrup. We'll probably thin it out with a couple quarts of 1030. That'll make something similar to like a 1540-ish, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I play one on YouTube sometimes. I don't know where this came from, but it's going in here. I was looking at the oil jugs that were in it, and that one is full of used motor oil. It's great. That means they've probably been running used oil in this thing. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and rebuild the carburetor. Can't hurt. Still need to do belts and hoses, so I'm going to drain some coolant out of it into this bucket, and we can hopefully pour it back in as long as it doesn't look too bad. Maybe save a buck or two. Or maybe it needs some coolant anyway. Yeah. Okay, maybe some fresh coolant wouldn't hurt, you know? Oh, good. The new radiator has the petcock broke off. That's very, very convenient. Good. Great. Wow. So I was planning on showing you guys draining it with the lower hose, but I loosened that clamp and it just fell off. Maybe it's a good thing we looked at that anyway, I guess. Although this sucks. If I've gone this far, I might as well put the $11 radiator hose I bought on it, I guess. I already made a mess. Screw it. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. Be a good backup, if nothing else, but I'll change it just for peace of mind. Yeah, changing that antifreeze may not be a bad idea. Not the cleanest bucket in the world to start with, but it's still kind of nasty. I got the new lower hose on. I'll go ahead and put a new upper hose on too when we put a new thermostat in it. I guess another $10 down the hole. Having multiple squirrel moments here, but we probably need to address this transmission cooler line. It is loose in this fitting and also rubbing through it, so we can fix that pretty easy. I just got this off. I just unbolted this. Pretty gross. Not looking the best. There we go. Yeah, you know, it's just been running a lot of water in it. Just a lot of little nitpicky stuff to do here, but it's very important that you do it. There we go. There's one of those. Definitely gonna have to glue the gasket onto this. Pretty heavy pitting on that. Doing heater hoses now. Look at that. I just pulled it off that nipple. Ripped right in half. That was definitely going to be a problem. A little bit of preventative maintenance can go a long way. Alright, it's like midnight. I made good progress. We got some more things to do tomorrow before I want to fire it up and see how it runs. I feel pretty good about it. Here's my list. We're going to end up checking that twice. I would fire it up right now, but those fuel lines are falling off of it. I don't want to prime that pump and end up dumping gas everywhere tomorrow. Back to work this morning. I'm going to throw some belts on it, but this alternator, that's bent on the shaft. That bearing does not sound happy. You know, we may want to go ahead and just replace that too. I don't know, I always end up doing too much or not enough. There's never an in-between with me. These are good enough to carry as backups. See, look how out of round that thing is. It's wobbly and I don't sound very good. It worked. So we could call this a backup plan, not like that Chinese alternator is really going to be any better. We may as well rebuild everything up here while we're able to access it. Look a little nicer, maybe. How's that water pump feel? It feels fine, thank God. There's some belts. Next up, I want to change those transmission cooler hoses, so I don't got to worry about that. And the fuel hoses that lead to the pump down there. And then we're going to move on to some more difficult things, like that I've been ignoring. You gotta be kidding me. Look at that. I went in, ate some lunch, came out, there's a puddle of oil on the ground. The shaft on this pump must be so bad, but I tightened up that belt, it started to leaking. Well, let's replace that. Now that I'm looking at it, that pressure line was actually loose, so that was probably what was leaking. But it's hard telling, because it kind of looks like it's leaking from the reservoir seal too. I think I'm just going to replace it. Screw it, I have one. I bought two for my other K20, and this was the wrong one for it, but it seems to be the right one-ish for this one, so I don't know, free power steering pump, I guess. Yeah, this pump ought to work. The only difference is it had a 45-degree inverted flare fitting, and this truck uses an O-ring fitting. So you can just swap out this fitting in the back of the reservoir and you're good to go. You get a new power steering pump. You better be good to me, truck. Well, I got the grill popped out. You can see that has been leaking. And it's actually getting sawed through up here. Not good. We'll change those hoses, maybe route them a little better. Also, the black bezels and grill is driving me insane. It looks so stupid. I'm going to try to glue this back together like this. Now, Tom and Betty sent me a bunch of stuff, and in the box of stuff they sent was some JD Weld plastic weld, so we'll go ahead and use that to glue this grill back together. This is just a plastic two-part epoxy, much better than super glue, which would also probably work, honestly. Dab a little on the broken parts here. And by a little, I mean entirely too much. It should dry fairly quickly. And once it's dry, we can throw some silver paint at this and just make it look a little bit better, a little less like, hey, pull me over, I'm an idiot. Alright, let's fire this thing up. We got a lot going on. We're going to have to bleed the air out of the new power steering pump. We're going to have to burp the radiator. We're going to have to look for oil leaks. We're going to have to time it. We're going to have to make sure it runs decent. So, lots going on right here, but let's see what we can do. Can't tell if the valve covers are still leaking or if it's just burning crap off of it still. I've also got the timing set at what it tells me is 22 degrees, but sounds a lot happier there than it does at like 14, so I'm gonna guess the balancer is slipped and not accurate. Let's try to clean out the valves and the chambers with a little transmission fluid, and we'll see if that helps. Got something out of it. Damn. Well, it runs halfway decent. Not bad. However, that last little bit I showed you there is a vacuum leak on the intake, I think. It should rev up when you spray brake clean at it, and it was dogging it down, but either way you cut it, I think we've got a leaky intake runner sucking air. Now, it doesn't really seem to care that much, and I'm tempted to not do anything about it, but if I have the time, I'm going to. In the meantime, I'm going to paint that grill and reinstall it, because that's important. And then we're going to dive into suspension and brakes. Looks like our glue did a good job, and the popsicle stick is very structural there. Yeah, it's clean enough to paint to me. Oh, yeah. That's going to look a lot better. Alright, let's do some sketchy stuff here. We're only replacing the lower control arm. So we're going to separate this ball joint with a jack supporting the control arm so that hopefully this spring doesn't kill me. What I like to do is leave the ball joint nut on a couple of threads and then separate the ball joint. Just like a little bit of safety. I'm going to get my ass up here so I'm not in the line of fire all the way. There we go. I forgot this truck has a sway bar. I think that might have been what was holding it up. I hope, because otherwise I gotta go get a compressor. Oh yeah. Hey, nice and easy. That's the way I wanted it to be. Now, we in the industry would call this bad. Not exactly what you want out of your control arm. Not doing a lot of controlling. These control arms are secured with 2 U-bolts on the cross shaft to the cross member here. So far so good. They'll be here a while, but they'll come. Well, I'm just looking at it. I think we could get away with this driver's side. It's not that bad. The upper control arms also aren't that bad. I kind of wonder if it just hit something over here. Maybe. Here's our new one from Napa, and they were the only ones I could get local. There are 2 pins you have to get the shaft set on, and this one just popped right in, which is nice. So, I think that's good. I'm going to go ahead and just tighten her down. And the new U-bolts work nice. Yeah, we'll be all set on this side. Little doing, but I got that spring in there. I'm pretty sure it's clocked right. I don't know. It is important, but is it that important? I know it's seated, and that's really what matters. Well, I greased up the front end. Figured I'd crawl under here, grease up the U-joints, you know. And, there's some slight problems we should probably address. Also, disregard the oil coming out of the exhaust. Surely that's not... I mean, it wasn't even smoking. There's no way, right? Oh well. Let's one issue at a time here. Let's get this taken care of. Somebody's been here because like one side of the bolts are missing on all 4 and they're loose. So what they do, just put the wrong U-joint in maybe? I don't know what's going on here. You got a stamp ring there Nothing on this one, and it's flush. This is an original U-joint, I think. It's still got the nubs for the plastic injection. I don't think there's anything really wrong with it, but I don't know, maybe we'll replace it too. I think that's got 1,200 miles in it. Doesn't have really bad side-to-side play. Sounds really bad. Getting the bad joint replaced here, and that's very easy because obviously it had already been out. You can do that with a hammer and a socket pretty easy. That factory one needs a little persuasion. GM used to hold their U-joint caps in with plastic. They'd inject plastic into the yoke and the drive shaft here and hold the cap in place. The way you get it out is you melt it out. Once you heat it up, it should start to just kind of pee right out the side. You can see it bubbling out of there. I don't know why the hell it would have two different U-joints in it. One for the back and one for the front, but it does. And it looks like this is a 3R probably. That's what a BOP usually takes. I'll have to go see if the parts store has that. I have another new and exciting issue here. Even after new U-joints, and I have a 1350 here for example, we have lots of slop. Probably because they had that homemade U-joint in there. It was allowing the caps to rotate a lot, and it wore their stops down. So we really probably need a new yoke for this. I'm gonna try to tighten this down in there and just see what it feels like. Yeah, so I got one bolt tight in each of them straps, and well, as the straps are worn out too from doing that. I guess if you had new straps, they might hold it on there. I'm just gonna order a yoke and a seal and a strap kit, and then we're not gonna worry about it. Alright, scratch that. I can't get a yoke for a semi-floating 14 bolt. It's a 9.5 inch ring gear. It's quite a bit different than the full floating 14 bolt. I thought the yoke would be the same, but apparently they are not. So we gotta figure something out. Try some different straps that might hold that in a little better. Weld it? I don't know. This is just proof of concept, but if I peen the ends of these over, flatten that cap out, hold that cap in better, it seems to work. Like, that's not bad. That's worked. It's a lot better than it was. I think if I do that with a new strap kit that I'll have to get tomorrow, it might be okay. We're gonna drive the shit out of this before we try to take it on a road trip, though. I feel better. We got a plan there. I filled up the rear end. It was very, very low. We're gonna want to bring some grease with us, that's for sure. At least it's easy to put in this. I needed a win, so I did put the grill in. Looks a lot better than it did. Also, the oil that's coming out of the driver's side tailpipe, we have a vacuum leak on the driver's side of the intake. That valve cover was leaking, sucking the oil into the port, because this thing doesn't smoke, and it just doesn't seem to run that bad. Like, for it to be pouring liquid oil out of the tailpipe, it's got to be pretty dang dead, and it's just not, or it doesn't seem like it. I think we got to do the intake. There's no oil leak now, but it could be sucking from the valley as well. I've seen it happen. I'm feeling better about this than I was about an hour or two ago. Let's move on to some front brake pads and bearings. I'm not putting calipers or hoses on it. I think they're fine. I got the rear drums off. The shoes actually look really nice. All the hardware looks good. I'm not going to change any of that. Just going to pop a couple wheel cylinders in and see what happens. Yeah. You could use a set of pads. I'm glad I took a look at these. You guys won't believe me, but they weren't packed very good. They were in dire need of some grease. But they are new, as well as the rotors, so they should be good now. I've returned today, filled anew with work ethic. No, I'm very tired. I got new pads in the front, and I think I've solved this. You see, a snap ring fits in here, and you can only get one in, but this snap ring fit really nice in here. Then I peened the edge of the strap over. Both sides I kind of peened the strap over so that it'll theoretically help hold it in and tighten up that strap. Also, they're new straps. So, and I don't think it's going anywhere. It actually feels decent. So I'm gonna guess that's solved, but we'll still make sure we drive it a little bit before we just hit the road, you know. I gotta do rear brakes, just wheel cylinders is all I'm doing back here, and the rubber brake hose, and then we'll see if we can bleed them. Well, I found the brake line leak. Probably the reason why I didn't have brakes back here is this line here had a leak in it. I only found that out because I was heating up the fitting. It boiled the fluid, pushed it out, and it was wet where the armor is, where they all leak. We're gonna make 2 new brake lines for that. Jess is out here cleaning the truck. Why'd you take the floor mat out? I didn't want to see that.
You didn't see anything. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Turn that stupid ass speaker off the dash.
It's actually like bolted in here.
Well, they attached it better than I thought. Oh.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yes. My fingers almost aren't big enough to cover everything. Cheers to her, I guess.
Breast wishes.
Breast wishes! Love Heather Hooters.
Yeah, get that garbage off of there. Shitbox edition. I'm so original.
Oh, gotta do it like a car girl.
There you go. They really stuck that one on there.
God. Now,
be
a
careful.
little better.
Hitbox. Here's another brake leak. This wheel cylinder. Pretty bad. That's done. Now I just gotta refinish this brake drum here. It actually looks really nice. Not bad. There's a lot of... This truck is weird. There's a lot of really, really bad things about it. And also some things that are like, wow, somebody tried to take care of it. God. There we go. Fixed. Both wheel cylinders done. I just gotta hook up brake lines. We're ready to bleed brakes. We've got pretty much all the bullshit off of here.
Yeah.
Except for the adhesive. Scrubbing them off.
Though, for sure.
Yeah. And we may doll this thing up a little before we go, if it deserves it. Just working on getting us some lunch, so I'm gravity bleeding the brakes just to see if it'll work. And it actually is. This isn't a bad way to do this on these trucks. Is that prop valves of these years are just so sensitive. You'll end up kicking it back and forth and it's annoying. If you gravity bleed them, it works pretty good as long as there's no leaks. If it's bleeding that well, I think we're probably in good shape. I'll be damned. Yep, good brakes now. Damn things, they just bled themselves. Hitting them a few times just to make sure nothing pops, but I don't think it did. I think we're good. Got our new rubber on. Even just new tires makes the truck look a lot better. Let's put it on the ground where it will hopefully remain if we're lucky. I'm gonna have Jess come out here and make this thing look a little nicer. I'm gonna take this rack off of here, and that way she can paint the tops of the bed caps and stuff like that. Just, you know, spritz it up a little. You know, if it looks good, it might be good. Maybe a couple of mirrors too. But with the truck on the ground, it's gonna be a lot easier for me to climb in there, and I might bitch a little bit less about doing the intake. I'm gonna get to that intake in just a second, but first I'm gonna remove this headache rack because A, it looks really dumb, B, it looks really dumb. They got this baby attached with industrial grade self-tappers. Well, look at that. You could hold a head on with that thing. And that's it. Here's the intake we're going to use. Somebody at Duct Tape Drags gave me this. So we'll throw it on here. It's a Y-end intake of some kind. And it looks like it's in good shape. All the threads are in good shape. It'll be perfect. It'll run better than that. And it's a lot more likely to seal in the first place. Now obviously I can't just throw it on like that, so I'm cleaning it up. Oh yeah. Look at that.
Brand new.
On camera, it looks like it.
That's all that matters.
Remember when we drained the antifreeze last time? It didn't end so good. We're going to try a clicky-clack fuel pump. Maybe that'll work. It's definitely not going to hate this. It's working. We just got to get the level of the radiator below the level of the intake. Hopefully not contaminate the fresh oil I just put in. How's it looking?
Oh, fantastic.
Ah.
You'd never know it was there.
Nope.
I mean,
Wow.
look at there.
That's great.
Oh.
Gotta pull the distributor, gotta pull the alternator bracket. That's about it. Pop the distributor out of here, so I'm gonna mark the firewall where the rotor is pointing. And then when we reinstall the distributor, we just point the rotor at that. We should be good to go. There's a bunch of oil inside of the distributor, which is, I don't think it's great for it. Now, did that come from the incredible oil fountain of leaks it had? Or is it traveling up the shaft somehow? Should it sound like a maraca? I think I might put another distributor in. I don't know what the hell they painted that with, but it was tough to get off there. So that should be good to go. I'll have Jess paint it black or whatever she finds. You know, the gray kind of looks like aluminum.
It doesn't look that bad if you want to just do a couple coats of this.
Yeah, just prime it.
Alright.
We had high heat primer.
Yeah.
That looks fine. We'll use that. Installed up the wheels. That looks good. I had a new taillight lens laying around. Oh, this one has the chrome, but that one doesn't.
So I can take it off. It's barely on.
Well, if it's barely on, yeah, let's make it match, you know.
Okay.
It's symmetry is important to drive there. I had some marker lights laying around too. Not sure. They're probably all like the right side or something, but whatever. They'll look better than these. And on my front, I'm ready to pop the intake. I don't know if I need to pull the valve covers on this one or not. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Try it with one valve cover out of the way. With an intake that actually fits, you don't have to do that. I think they glued the whole thing on. They did. Idiots. Motor's actually very clean inside. Probably because I've never had oil in it long enough to build up sludge. It was pouring out of the back here. I don't know what kind of intake gaskets these are. It's super L cheap. Look how brittle these are. That thing had to have been leaking. It was probably sucking oil out of the valley into that runner, I hope. That's what I'm going with. I don't see any bent push tubes or wasted lifters or anything. It's kind of hard to see the lobes of a cam in a Chevy, but I don't see anything that's like, whoa, you know, other than the intake gaskets. Those are destroyed. Okay, we're getting closer here. I got all the surfaces cleaned off. I want to make sure I clean out the valley really well. I've made the executive decision that this gray primer on this intake kind of just looks like gray primer. So I'm just going to paint it black. That's all the rage these days, right? That's what all the kids are doing. Blacked out. Murdered out, right? Yeah? Yeah? I don't know. It'll hide all the grease. Test fitting the intake, and you'll note that it is nowhere near the valve cover. So good thing I ground that off for no reason at all. Let's plop this thing on. I got about 10 half tubes of silicone I'm going to try to burn up here. It's going to put a nice big fat bead on the china walls. And then just a little bit of it around each of the coolant passages. And especially get you a glob in the corners. That's very, very important. And I always just try to make this bead about 3/8 of an inch tall or so. These older intakes like that Wyand, they fit so much better than modern ones. With the exception of Edelbrock, they're all kind of junk now. I'm going to get my gaskets in place. Use that silicone on the coolant passages to hold it where I want it. And then on top of the gasket, I'm going to again put a glob of silicone in the corner where it meets the oil valley. You can do the plop. Looks like it's squished out pretty nice. I also had a set of intake bolts laying around with these gaskets, so I figured why not use them. One's going in. I just try to get a couple started on each side, and you may have to like get a screwdriver and kind of move your gasket around and stuff. Let me get them all in and then we'll start tightening. All the bolts are started. Now I'm going to pull 4 back out Why? The center 4 bolts on a small block Chevy are not blind holes. They run right next to where the push rods are. So you just put a little bit of RTV on the threads of those bolts and it'll prevent oil from creeping up the threads. On something like this, is it really something that matters? No, but I don't know. I'm here. May as well do it right. You could use thread sealant, whatever. But just plain old RTV works just fine. Once you do that, you want to start tightening your bolts in the middle. You want to do like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then work your way outside. Then you're going to want to go over the bolts several times to walk that intake all the way down and make sure she's seated all the way. There's literally only one reason why I decided to use those new bolts I had. That's because they're 12-point bolts, and that means you can put a ratchet wrench on the center 4. You don't have to do it one little turn at a time. I button up under the hood. I've just changed the mirrors on the truck with some that I found laying around. Don't break the glass.
I'll try not to. I won't look in it.
Oh yeah. The stainless mirror looks much better. Yeah, this old truck is actually shaping up pretty nice. Even under the hood, it's like, looks pretty good in there. I'm not going to start this up tonight. It's kind of late. Kind of paranoid about letting the RTV set up. I've burned myself before by starting them too quickly. So let everything cure up overnight and it'll be fine. That's way too much time, but it'll be fine. We'll fire it up tomorrow, time it, and take it for a spin. Ooh, I bet I could put the hubcaps on now. That's important.
I did really glob that paint on, so...
Yeah, cause... No, that's good. Well, yeah, it's fine. I'll put the hubcaps on. Oh, yeah. I'm helping with the cleaning chores. Scraping the overspray off the window that got on there mysteriously.
I don't know how that happened.
I don't know.
I certainly didn't get wild with the spray paint, if that's what you're insinuating. It's not all the way out there.
It's everywhere.
Give me a break.
We made a discovery. Brake clean. Pretty good window cleaner, actually. I always wondered because it evaporates really quick, so
That's fantastic.
look at that. It's freaking good. We learned something today. Use brake clean to clean windows. Or maybe don't. Let's fire this thing up and set the timing. I'm just going to time it by ear because I don't trust that balancer. And hopefully everything's cool, it runs better, and we can go take it for a test drive. Yep. Well, it runs. Let it warm up a bit, I guess. Well, I think really all we've managed to do is make it smoke more efficiently. We'll go take her around town for the day, see what happens. Well, it runs way better. Looks better, too. Boy, that smokes a lot. We're going to go through a lot of oil. But it does run pretty good. I think we should bring an extra set of plugs with us. You know, on the off chance that the gas gauge actually worked, I dumped 5 gallons in. And it does work. This thing was completely empty. That, I mean, probably wasn't helping anything. Well, let's go scoot around and see what falls off. It is truck. Modulator valve is bad. Won't shift on its own. It might come out of it. Is it fogging? No? hitting on all 8. We got 20 pounds oil pressure-ish. I don't know, whatever the first line is. There is oil pressure. Staying nice and cool, 180 degrees. I don't know. That's a lot of oil. Where'd that come from? Where did that come from? It's not my intake. How did it get up there? Sometimes there's people leave a bolt out over here in front of this fuel pump, but it's there. Might be coming out of the fuel pump. That's weird. Yep.
Alright.
That's a weep hole for the fuel pump. So when the baffle goes bad in there, that separates the oil and the fuel. Typically it blows fuel out of it, which I guess that could be fuel. But it's letting oil out of it. And naturally I fixed all the other oil leaks. And now we have that. But that's easy enough to throw a pump on it. I've got one. Yeah, it was really hossing it out of there. How's it look? Is it nasty? No, it's fine. Alright. Well, that's an easy fix. I'm glad we found it. That means that fuel pump's not long for the world, probably, but we should be able to putt around. I still want to drive around on it and just see, you know, I mean, I don't know, or maybe we run over to Dad's or something and change it there or something, because I'm actually less worried about this than I am like the rest of the truck. So I heard like a really good clunk somewhere. I'm not sure what it was. I might just be paranoid.
Oh, it was very much a clunk.
Well, it is missing a sway bar bushing over here. That could totally do it. We're only here at O'Reilly's, so I can take these damn brake shoes back. $50 back in my pocket. Well, $57 back in my pocket. Let's run to Dad's, see if it falls apart between here and there. And if it doesn't, I guess I can toss a fuel pump on it at Dad's. Drive shaft repair seems to work, actually. But that pinion seal is completely AWOL. I don't see anything else like super bad or anything. Well, this is more important than the fuel pump. Dad had some prism tape. And now we have an emblem. Homemade. It'll work. I am going to toss a fuel pump on it real quick though. Shouldn't take me very long. Pulled that bolt out up here that lets you jam the push rod in place. That made life a little easier. Now we can just slip our fuel pump right in there. Yeah, look, there's oil coming out of it right now. I set it on its side.
Yeah, that's a good shot right there. Perfect.
I know.
And you look at your finger.
Yeah.
Just pour it all over your finger.
That's crazy. I've never seen that. I've seen gas. I've never seen oil. It's good to me. She's good. Driveway repair completed. I think it runs better. Let's, I don't know, let's go get some food, maybe?
Yeah.
The new Whataburger opened up. Want to go there?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Pretty good. Doing 55. I mean, it's a little wandery, a little wore out, you know. It's not that bad. The fuel pump helps a lot. It's actually running pretty good now. 75 miles an stinky in here. A little oil, probably from the. Here, let me check. Yep, that's where it's coming from. I know the oil pan's leaking, the cover's leaking, everything is leaking. But overall, it's not that bad. It does need a modulator valve, I think, but if I kick her down, it is not a rocket ship, but it's doing what it needs to do. Runs pretty damn good, actually. And it drives nice. It just runs like an old square body pickup truck, and you ain't gonna win no races. I mean, it'll do its job. It's about 15 miles to the Whataburger. Brand new Whataburger, I might add. And this truck is just not that bad. Like, it's, how have I, why? I wanted something that was, I wanted it to be junk. Not junk, but like just junk enough. And it's not. It's like decent.
That's the flagpole making that sound.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is the flagpole. 1 gallon of sweet tea, 1 milkshake. Yes. And a crate of french fries. Yes. Lovely burger.
Yes.
God bless America, Walmart, and Whataburger, and square body pickup trucks. Yeah. By God. All right, let's go to the farm store in our truck. We made it to the farm store. We get some dog food, I guess. And I guess you guys are just coming and doing errands with us.
Woohoo!
They didn't have the dog food we needed, but they did have this cat tree. It's pretty cool. I like cats. I like my kitty. She needs a new tree. Will it run? Wow. How exciting. You know, this truck went from, I hated it. Well, I didn't hate it, but it went from like just abysmal failure to it's a perfectly good truck. Damn it. Gotta put a modulator valve in it. Well, that was like 50 miles. So like all in all, and it's perfectly fine. We could absolutely drive this to New Mexico. I'm pretty sure it'd be just fine. Hey, yeah, it would drive all the way to New Mexico. I have done this enough to know that it'd probably be pretty much trouble-free. I mean, gonna use some oil, gonna need some gas, gonna need some gear lube. Nothing I'm not worried about. However, she likes it.
I do. I really, really, really do.
And I do too,
yeah.
Unfortunately. Now, it's not like we don't have enough other trucks, but...
Don't hate me, guys. I really love it. Sorry.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, no, we can't, because the goal was to drive it there and then sell it. I don't want to do that. We should keep it. Yeah. This truck was destined to be scrapped if someone didn't put the work that I put into it. And here we are. Like, now it is a perfectly good truck, and I think it's happy, you know, that it's getting fixed. I guess we'll just take the Tahoe down there. We still have a car to pick up down there, so yeah. We'll just do that. We're not done with this truck. You'll see it again. I'm thinking body paint, interior, you know, fix that exhaust leak, fix the rear end, and I don't know, make it just a good usable pickup. We'll see you guys.